Tom, the future outlook for Dak's salary.
Well, you brought up one of the key factors here, Patrick, which is that Dak Prescott was a fourth-round draft pick. That means there is no fifth-year option in his contract. That's normally a touchstone for these deals to get done because it's a big number sitting there at the end of the contract. Both sides are motivated to figure out whether or not they're going to be able to get something done long-term. With Dak Prescott, the Cowboys have time to figure this out. He's due $1.35 million total over the next 2 years. He's eligible to have that extension negotiate after this season. One comparable potentially would be Russell Wilson, who agreed to a deal going into his fourth season on the eve of training camp. At the time, averaged $21.9 million. That was good enough for second under Aaron Rodgers, but the guarantee at signing, relatively small, $31.7 million. Ton of money to everybody here except for maybe Rappaport. But for quarterbacks, that's not a huge number sitting there. The rest of it was tied to injury guarantees that would trigger year to year into full guarantees. The structure of a contract with Dak Prescott, one of many factors to watch here.
No, and Tom, you mentioned, well, of course, you mentioned my salary, which we'll talk about at a different time. But as far as Dak Prescott, the Cowboys, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones said publicly that Dak is going to be compensated. They have told him the same during more private times, saying basically when it is time, we are going to compensate you fairly. And they know what it's going to be. Remember, they paid Tony Romo for all those years. In fact, Romo's salary still on the books, still paying some of that dead money off. But it is certainly a good problem to have. What's going to be most interesting to me is what kind of a stance do Dak Prescott and his agents take going forward? First of all, do they demand for him to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? That's where Russell Wilson was aiming until he ended up right under Aaron Rodgers. The other thing that Russell Wilson and his agent did was to say once he stepped on the field for training camp in his fourth year, which will be next year for Dak Prescott, if he didn't have a contract extension then, he was done negotiating. Do Dak Prescott and his agents take a similar hard line, or does he even possibly weigh maybe going out for the 2019 training camp without an extension? This will be an issue for us to discuss going forward, but safe to say he's in a good spot now to earn a huge, huge raise.
The other thing Russell Wilson and his agents tried to do was not only beat Aaron Rodgers, but blow it out of the water. They asked for $30 million per year up until, I believe, the day before that deadline that you were talking about. And then the Seahawks said, we are not moving because they understood that he had played 3 years on that rookie deal that was not nearly as lucrative as some of the other ones that we were just showing you if you're a first-round pick. And saying, okay, do I really want to play another year on a rookie deal? And like Tom said, that'll be another $720,000 for Dak Prescott. Does he really want to play at $720,000 next year? That's going to be the decision that he has to make there, and that will be the leverage for the Cowboys to understand that he's going to have to take an offer that may not be top of the market, but maybe somewhere in between. Of course, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. He has to ball out this year in the first place, and if the Cowboys have to make that decision, that's called a good problem to have.